Welcome everybody. The Western Australian government has introduced a bill to legalize voluntary assisted dying for patients living with terminal illnesses in the region. What are the pros and cons of this bill? We are at the Hamilton Hill Memorial Hall for a discussion titled Fremantle End of Life Choices Forum. Are the people ready for this? Let's have a listen to what the members of public has to say.
Well, the forum tonight is put on by two local politicians. It's a great thing, and they've got some panel members from the Ministerial Expert Panel. We're here with our postcards to encourage people to sign. We've had thousands signed so far. We want more. We send the postcards to the politicians, telling them on behalf of constituents that they should support this bill, which has very strong popular support.
My mum was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer in 2016 and she fought really hard. She wanted to live, but she went through the chemo and was told by her doctors that she had several weeks left to live. When she heard this, she made two requests for voluntary assisted dying. First, she asked, can you help me to go quicker, to her oncologist? And 3 days later, she asked her palliative care consultant, can you help me to speed up this process? And she went on to die in a way that will haunt me for the rest of my life. She was severely agitated. She had amazing top quality palliative care. She was in a specialist palliative care facility, and yet she was twitching and rasping for air and her eyes were pointing in different directions. So this tells me that although we have amazing palliative care in WA and it still needs to continue improving, it's just not enough for some patients. My mum was one of those patients. I walked from Melbourne to Perth to campaign for voluntary assisted dying law reform in Western Australia, so that people don't have to suffer the way that my mum did if that's the choice that they want to make.
My own father died a horrific death which could have been alleviated by somebody at least being giving him the opportunity to pass with peace, and he didn't. And I will always remember the look in his eyes, in his face, as he begged me to put a pillow over his head because he just couldn't bear to live any longer from the agony that he was caused by the cancer in his spine and just his degeneration in every part of his body. He just wanted to die and he couldn't, so he died a horrible death.
Tonight I came along as an interested person who lives in Fremantle, but I think I'll try and prosecute and put my time in electorates which are a lot more conservative than Fremantle, where the local people need to be rallied to influence their Conservative Member of Parliament to vote for this legislation. You know, what happened tonight was encouraging, and I think that it's got to equally happen in the electorates where there are obviously members from the Conservative side who need to be approached. It's all right in a Labor electorate where you have government members, but I think this campaign's got to be really fought in those Conservative electorates as well.
It's been tabled in the Legislative Assembly already. Debate will commence on about the 27th of August, and later on it'll make its way to the Upper House where the vote will be close. So we want to get the maximum number of people communicating with their members, especially in the Upper House, telling them that they want this bill supported, they want it passed into law, and why they want it passed.
I would just like to say, please, politicians, put aside your religious beliefs, all those things. Just give people the choice. All we want is the choice. We want the choice to be able to have a peaceful, compassionate end. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. You don't have to take up the opportunity, but give people who want that choice the opportunity to have that choice. It all boils down to choice.
I think despite the amount of public support for voluntary assisted dying, we could fully expect that this will be very difficult to get through the state parliament. We've seen in other jurisdictions, particularly, it's not all, but some church groups or conservative groups have organised against these voluntary assisted dying legislation, and so I really urge people who do support this bill or the issue generally to educate themselves about what's being proposed specifically in Western Australia and let their elected representatives, both lower house and upper house, know what their views are and participate in the public debate. Our parliament should be reflecting public opinion on this. History shows us, experience in other jurisdictions in Australia but overseas, that in fact it can be very difficult to get passage through the parliament.
Some members of the parliament and some pioneers of these bills have enlightened us and the public about this bill and are imploring the public to vote for this bill to be passed in Parliament. It's Tony ETC reporting for Undercurrent.